So today we have an interesting subject. After we finished with the videos about 1711, we have now the famous MD20, the competence of accreditation body assessors. So today we have with us the very renowned expert in personnel qualifications and assessors qualifications, Mr. Vijay. You're welcome with us. Very happy to see you. And we would like to have some light on this MD20 because everyone is thinking about it. Some accreditation bodies are preservative about it, saying maybe it will be too difficult for us. Some others say no, it's important to apply it because this will give confidence for us with our stakeholders. And we would like to have some introduction about what is this MD20. So please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. And I think one of the important things is the whole world is moving away from a qualification-based approach to a competency-based approach.
True.
So whether it's corporations, whether it's non-profit, government, so we have to do that because it's critical for our survival. So we don't have a choice. And many times these apprehensions or fear of change, we all resist change and what it's going to mean to us. So, we are, and in most of the time, like what I find is it's because we are not aware of what it is. And that's why there's a fear, people are afraid of loss. People are afraid what's going to happen. So, and the more I interact with people, when I talk about MD20, explain to them, and then they start saying, oh, that's really good for us. That's something that we all should be doing.
Exactly.
So I think it's most of the time it's not knowing, it's the fear of the unknown.
Something that's coming to us is something that's going to change.
Something is going to be big and we all are going to be crushed under this MD20. So it's not like that. It's meant to make us all better in terms of what we do and have more confidence. Like, we all do good job in terms of training our assessors. We all do good job in terms of making sure that they are competent. But we all do bits and pieces. We do some things very good, some things we don't do very good because we're not aware of what needs to be done.
Exactly.
And if we have to have confidence in one another, we want to make sure that what you're doing, we have to have a common platform.
Exactly.
We all do things consistently. So the whole idea behind MD20 is like we define, we agree on. And this was what the whole idea was. We all came together. We spent a lot of time, 10 years doing it because we wanted to agree on it. We wanted it to be based on science. On good evaluation, because if you don't define competencies that are measurable, then you cannot measure them. So it's so the whole idea was, it took us a lot of time because people were afraid what it is going to be. But it's really good to see everyone coming around, recognizing that this is something which is good for us. We do it because it will help us to become better.
That's true. I think this is not an easy subject, but it's very important that you took time for it, so that accreditation bodies finally agreed about it, and that this will give more harmonization, and also in the view of our stakeholders and the interested parties of accreditation, they will see more consistency. They will be sure that this accreditation body and that accreditation body, they have the same criteria for their assessors, which is the most important thing in our accreditation body is our assessors. So I think this is very important for us for the MD20. Now we would like to talk about this MD20. It is two parts, as I see. There are annexes and there's also the main requirements. In the main requirements, there's a reference to the annexes, asking for consideration of the annexes in the requirements. So are these detailed annexes like mandatory for us also, or is it like an information to guide us, or how can we treat these annexes of the MD20?
All right. So like, for instance, what happens is, at the bigger level, we have constructs like leadership, like communication skills. Now, we all know communication skill is important. We all know leadership is important. But when we start evaluating it, we need to know exactly what we are talking about. Like, for instance, leadership. Now, are we talking about corporate leadership? So if you're looking at corporate leadership, then the most important thing is going to be risk-taking, innovation, disruption. So that's corporate leadership. But we are not talking about that. So we're talking about leadership in the context of accreditation bodies. So we're talking about, okay, what does leadership mean? So leadership would mean managing a team of assessors effectively. Leadership would mean conflict resolution within the team. So when we look at these annexes or these requirements, what it is trying to do is it's trying to operationalize, it's trying to provide us variables as to what that construct means. So what is leadership? What's communication? So it has to be contextualized for accreditation bodies,
Right.
and it has to be measurable for accreditation bodies.
Exactly.
So that's why these like, you know, variables or annexes, so some of them are like informative. It gives us guidelines. It tells us what you should be thinking about. So, you know, when you start thinking about them, then you start realizing, okay, these are good starters. We can do something more to what we have. It's not meant to be, you know, this is the only list.
Yes.
It's meant to be like, you know, you start with this, you take into account these factors so that you will then recognize what that leadership means. Because let's assume we just say leadership is important for assessors.
Yeah.
Now, you might think of leadership very differently from what I would think
true,
of
yes,
leadership.
yes.
Then again, we run into the situation that what you are talking about leadership
It's different.
it's different. So here we try to then explain, okay, leadership here means these 5 things. So leadership means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have defined
very
leadership
important,
very
yes,
specifically,
yes.
so that then we can measure them and say, yes, that's what we. So it's trying to have a common understanding.
Yes. I think this is very useful because if you put only the requirements, you must have your assessors, they have leadership, they have knowledge about how to manage their time, they have knowledge about how to be in a team and things like that. Everyone can have it differently, can understand it differently. So it's very important that the team that you had and that with the experts in this field give us the guidances. We can go beyond that, right? If we have information about special cultural things in our country, things like that, we can go beyond that one. I think this is a very important thing for MD20, and that was structured in the right way. So now we would like to talk about the application of MD20. So MD20 now it's established and now that accreditation bodies are starting to apply it. We would like to see your advice for us and accreditation bodies, how to deal with this. Do we like to make now new systems, new procedures, things like that? Or do we have to take our existing procedures and enhance them or add to them? So what is your advice for us as accreditation bodies on how to deal and how to apply MD20?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. What my understanding is, I've interacted with people from other ABs. All of us are doing something, so we don't really have to start from scratch.
Yes.
Okay, so an MD20 is not something, a totally unique concept. We are not looking at something which we have not done it. So we already do things. Now what this is trying to establish is, where are the gaps? What are things that we are not doing right now?
Yes.
Because we may not be aware of it. We may not know that this has to be done.
Yes.
Okay, and then we're trying to do it in a more scientific basis so that we can then measure them. So right now, like for instance, all ABs, for instance, lay stress on report writing.
Yes.
You know, every AB for that, it's important, report writing, you know, you should not have errors. You know, when you write non-conformities, it has to be precise, concise. So all the ABs do that.
Yeah.
But then we are not doing it in terms of what exactly that means in terms of scientific evidence. So report writing,
Yes.
it means like, okay, is it concise? It is comprehensive. So what exactly that means?
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that all of us are doing things consistently. So what I would say is not in terms of totally reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
We already do things,
Yes.
but use this as a framework, use this
Yes.
as a bigger theory, use this as a structure that will help us see, okay, we do this, probably we have to do this extra.
Yes.
We don't do this, so how can we do it?
Can we
So
add
then we have this complete picture. So it's going to be like you know, you try to create a Lego toy.
Yes.
So you have these pieces.
That's the guidance for you to follow. That's the,
Yeah. So we're trying to put these structure together.
Yes.
So if you don't have something, then we get it.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a community of practice, like, and you know, among all of us. So
Yes.
I might find that you're doing something, so I might, you know, borrow a piece from you.
Yes.
You might borrow a piece from.
Exactly.
So that all of us together build a common structure. So at the end of the day, when the outside community comes and sees, so the structure that you have created looks exactly like what I have created.
Yes, right, and it's complementary also that if I need something from another accreditation body, I don't have to ask that much questions. How did you qualify? What are the requirements for you? We have the same guidance to do that.
Right.
And I think the example of the Lego is very important because when you have such a structure, this structure will be seen by the outside as a whole structure. They will not go into details. They would like to see this structure together, how it's helping the stakeholders and the infrastructure of conformity assessment in the member countries. I think this is very important work, and we look forward to start that. We have seen, for example, in this training, when the online training is being now recorded, that we had a lot of ideas exchanged between accreditation bodies, and I think that we will need in the future to have more and more of these workshops, more of this work between accreditation bodies, because thinking alone in its accreditation body can be good, but also you need to see other ideas from other accreditation bodies. So we've seen in this training that ideas from other accreditation bodies can be very helpful for us, things that we did not even think about it. So that's very important, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like this concept is somewhat new for a lot of APs, because a lot of people are experts in their field, they have been doing it. So people are not really expert in competency. People are not expert in measurement. They're not expert in psychological testing.
True,
But we have an opportunity. But the really good thing is our community is so large.
Yes,
we have people with all that expertise.
Exactly.
So if I need something from you, I'll come to you. If you need, this is my forte, my area where I've been, studying.
If you want to ask you in this, you don't have to search for someone else and explain accreditation to him.
Right. So it's we're trying to do this so that we can share resources, and that's exactly what I'm seeing even during this training that we have, and it's a fantastic opportunity for people to share their experiences, look in terms of what are the challenges that they have had. So that we don't have to repeat those mistakes, what's working for them.
Yes.
And for all of us, we are here together as a community. It's not, we are not here competing, we're not trying to hide something.
Yes.
And many times the challenge is, we can't share this with people outside because they don't know our context, so leadership, communication. So all of them is contextualized to the requirements for accreditation bodies. So I think that's something which is very
good. I think it's very nice. Hello again. So now we would like to use this opportunity when we meet Mr. Vijay, who is an expert in humans and organizations learning, to see is our approach for the e-learning is the right approach or not, and to have some advice from you about how is the e-learning have to be. So now in PAC, also in APLAC and PAC, we're trying to have some services for our members available, like the e-learning. We have a lot of needs for trainings, capacity building, and the e-learning was one of the projects that for many years now we're trying to establish, and hopefully with this project we can start the project. So can you explain to us how is it different to have a training on e-learning and a face-to-face training? Because we had the experience of recording face-to-face trainings and it did not work. So the people, they cannot stay for 3 days in front of the camera, in front of their PC computer and looking to what was recorded and things like that. So please explain to us how is it different and what we should do for this.
And the first is I'm really, really happy that PAC and APLAC is making this effort to get into this space. And one thing is when we use these words like e-learning, it's a bigger concept. So there could be different types of e-learning, like synchronous e-learning, non-synchronous. Is that something which is done real time, non-real time? Is it done based on blended learning models? So there are lots of theories around how it should be done, and you have this instructional designers who actually work in terms of creating that. So it's not just it's a different setting. So it's not like you can take a face-to-face training and then feed it into it and it's done. So you have, or just record someone talking for 2 hours and then make it available. So it has to be done very, very differently because otherwise it's not going to be effective. When you have face-to-face learning, the biggest advantage is you can have a lot of interaction and discussions. Now, even in e-learning, what I'm, hearing from you is this is one type of learning that you're doing. So you're not really having online classrooms, blackboards where people can interact and chat. What you're looking to do is you're looking to do learning videos that you're making. So which is part of e-learning. It's one way of doing it. So it's really important to come up with learning objectives. How can we do better learning objectives, and how do we make sure people are actually engaged? Because if you just come and give a lecture, no one wants to hear a lecture.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
People will be asleep. And
People will be asleep. Exactly. You don't want to do that. You want to have very short, because the attention span of people is very short.
Yeah, between 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
10 minutes. Like if you have like a 2-hour, even like for instance, when you go to YouTube, you look at something which is like 2-hour lecture. The first thing is you say, okay, I don't want to listen to that. So what you have to do is you have to have the short modules, like 10 minutes. 15 minutes, or these are more like appetizers. These are like trailers. So once people start listening to it, then they get what the gist of it, and then they will say, okay, we want to now hear a full lecture.
Yes. And they can continue after that. They should not stay one day, full day, seeing all the videos. They can see 2, 3 in one day and then continue after that.
Right. So it has to be sequential, where they see something and they can. And the other really important thing is the whole concept of transfer of learning to their job. And most of the research has shown that only 10% of what people actually learn gets transferred to the job. So the objective is not just to come and listen to a lecture, or the objective is not to listen to a video, but how do they actually apply it on the assessments that they do, and then they see the impact on the final outcomes. So, you have these various levels of evaluation, but at the end of that is level 4 evaluation, whether there is a change in the behavior, whether there is a change in terms of final output. So, when you have these modules, you give examples, case studies, and people can then try it out. The really good advantage of that is you break it down into, small chunks. We can call it as scaled learning, or learning which is built like a pyramid kind of thing. So you start with foundational and then you go more and more intense in terms of that stacked learning. So this idea of creating small modules where people are really engaged, and then you have short quizzes, good case studies and animations, and I know you're working on animations. And also in terms of gaming, you can have gaming where people can actually play with some games where they can learn some of these concepts, they can observe something, and maybe one of the things could also be done is, for instance, when you're talking about say opening meeting or closing meeting. Now you can actually have mock opening meetings where people can actually see how it's being done.
And they can criticize, they can say this is missing, this have to be saved now.
Right. So they can actually observe it, and right now with technology, there are so many new things that you can do which you
virtual
not be able
reality
to.
things.
Right. So you can actually bring in a lot of technology to make it more interesting. And that's, so when you look at face-to-face training and online training, both of them have their strengths and limitations.
That's right.
So in terms of online training, we have to maximize on all the advantages that it has to offer.
Every possibility that you have that technology, we can use it, and also we have more time for the trainee. He can pass 1 month for that training, but when he comes to the face-to-face training, he has only that 3 days or 2 days. Maybe he's not in good health, maybe he's not sleeping well, jet lag, things that, and he gets what he can get from that. This is fantastic, because when you've been talking, I was imagining all the things that we can do with this. So.
And one other thing is also in this case, I always think of it this, like movies. A lot of movies, and I'm sure all of us like to go back and watch those movies again and again.
Yes,
it's something which is interesting.
That means it's a nice video.
It's something nice. So when you have these things, because what might happen is today we are having this nice face-to-face meeting. But when people go back in the next 3-4 days, they'll forget 50% of it.
That's true.
And so in terms of these online videos, people can go back. So it could also serve as a refresher. So it does not have to be either you go for face-to-face or you go for this. It could complement each other. So I have gone through a face-to-face training, and then I go back and I refresh myself and say, okay, what did I forget something? Because when we learning is non-linear. It happens in multiple ways. So, and it happens in waves and cycles. So we go back and we listen on something. And so in these cases, what could also happen is, you can have discussion boards where people can actually look at the video, and then they can say, I think this is my feedback, or I have a question on that. So it becomes very, very interactive. And then the best thing is, you can get feedback from the entire community.
Yes, that's
and
true.
they might come
we
back
make
and
this e-learning better. We enhance it. I think the advantage also that these videos, they can be updated. If there's something new, we can go to that platform and then you still have access to that training, and then you go and then you see, oh, there's something new in here. There's something that have been modified. And we look forward then to the contribution from our community. We thank you very much for your time of this interview. I know that your trainees are waiting for you, but we look forward also for you, our dear trainees, to give us your feedback on these videos and give us also some information about how you see this training to be done, other trainings to be done, and let's work together and make this better. Thank you very much. Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you.